Chapter 8. Okonkwo did not taste any food for 2 days after the death of Ikemefuna. He drank palm wine from morning till night, and his eyes were red and fierce like the eyes of a rat when it was caught by the tail and dashed against the floor. He called his son Nwoye to sit with him in his obi, but the boy was afraid of him and slipped out of the hut as soon as he noticed him dozing. He did not sleep at night. He tried not to think about Ikemefuna, but the more he tried, the more he thought about him. Once he got up from bed and walked about his compound, but he was so weak that his legs could hardly carry him. He felt like a drunken giant walking with the limbs of a mosquito. Now and then a cold shiver descended on his head and spread down his body. On the third day, he asked his second wife, Ekwefi, to roast plantains for him. She prepared it the way he liked, with slices of oil bean and fish. "You have not eaten for 2 days," his daughter Izinma, when she brought food to him, said his daughter Izinma when she brought food to him. "So you must finish this." She sat down and stretched her legs out in front of her. Okonkwo ate the food absent-mindedly. She should have been a boy, he thought, as he looked at his 10-year-old daughter. He passed her a piece of fish. "Go and bring me some cold water," he said. Azimma rushed out of the hut, chewing the fish, and soon returned with a bowl of cool water from the earthen pot in her mother's hut. Okonkwo took the bowl from her and gulped the water down. He ate a few more pieces of plantain and pushed the dish aside. "Bring me my bag," he said, and Azimma brought his goatskin bag from the far end of the hut. He searched in it for his snuff bottle. It was a deep bag and took almost the whole length of his arm. It contained other things apart from his snuff bottle. There was a drinking horn in it, and also a drinking gourd, and they knocked against each other as he searched. When he brought out the snuff bottle, he tapped it a few times against his kneecap before taking out some snuff in the palm of his left hand. Then he remembered that he had not taken out his snuff spoon. He searched his bag again and brought out a small, flat ivory spoon with which he carried the brown snuff to his nostrils. Zinma took the dish in one hand and the empty water bowl in the other and went back to her mother's hut. She should have been a boy, Okonkwo said to himself again. His mind went back to Ikemefuna and he shivered. If only he could find some work to do, he would be able to forget. But it was the season of rest between the harvest and the next planting season. The only work that men did at this time was covering the walls of their compound with new palm fronds. And Okonkwo had already done that. He had finished it on the very day the locusts came, and when he had worked on one side of the wall, and Ikemefuna and Nwoye on the other. "When did you become a shivering old woman?" Okonkwo said to himself. "You, who are known in all the 9 villages for your valor in war, how can a man who has killed 5 men in battle fall to pieces because he had added a boy to their number? Okonkwo, you have become a woman indeed." He sprang to his feet, hung his goatskin bag on his shoulder, and went to visit his friend Obiarika. Obiarika was sitting outside under the shade of an orange tree making thatches from leaves of raffia palm. He exchanged greetings with Okonkwo and led the way into his obi. "I was coming over to see you as soon as I finished the thatch," he said, rubbing off the grains of sand that clung to his thighs. "Is it well?" Okonkwo asked. "Yes," replied Obiarika. "My daughter's suitor is coming today, and I hope we will clinch the matter of the bride price. I want you to be there." Just then, Obiarika's son Maduka came into the obi from outside, greeted Okonkwo, and turned towards the compound. "Come and shake hands with me," Okonkwo said to the lad. "Your wrestling the other day gave me much happiness." The boy smiled, shook hands with Okonkwo, and went into the compound. "He will do great things," Okonkwo said. "If I had a son like him, I should be happy. I am worried about Nwoye. A bowl of pounded yams can throw him in a wrestling match. His 2 younger brothers are more promising, but I can tell you, Obiarika, that my children do not resemble me. Where are the young suckers that grow when the old banana tree dies? If Azimma had been a boy, I would have been happier. She has the right spirit." "You worry yourself for nothing," said Obiarika. "The children are still very young. Nwoye is old enough to impregnate a woman. At his age, I was already fending for myself. No, my friend, he is not too young. A chick that will grow into a cock can be spotted the very day it hatches. I have done my best to make Nwoye grow into a man, but there's too much of his mother in him." Too much of his grandfather, Obiarika thought, but he did not say it. The same thought also came to Okonkwo's mind, but he had long learned how to lay that ghost. Whenever the thought of his father's weakness and failure troubled him, he expelled it by thinking about his own strength and success. And so he did now. His mind went to his latest show of manliness. "I cannot understand why you refused to come with us to kill that boy," he asked Obiarika. Because I did not want to, Obiorika replied sharply. I had something better to do. You sound as if you question the authority and the decision of the oracle, who said he should die. I did not, or I do not. Why should I? But the oracle did not ask me to carry out its decision. But someone had to do it. If we were all afraid of blood, it would not be done. And what do you think the oracle would do then? You know very well, Okonkwo, that I am not afraid of blood. And if anyone tells you that I am, he is telling a lie. And let me tell you one thing, my friend. If I were you, I would have stayed at home. What you have done will not please the earth. It is the kind of action for which the goddess wipes out whole families. The earth cannot punish me for obeying her messenger, Okonkwo said. A child's fingers are not scalded by a piece of hot yam which its mother puts into its palm. It is true. That is true, Obiorika agreed. But if the oracle says that my son should be killed, I would neither dispute it nor be the one to do it. They would have gone on arguing had Ofuedu had not come in just then. It was clear from his twinkling eyes that he had important news, but it would be impolite to rush him. Obiorika offered him a lobe of the kola nut that he had broken with Okonkwo. Ofuedu ate slowly and talked about the locusts. When he finished his kola nut, he said, The things that happen these days are very strange. What happened? Asked Okonkwo. Do you know Ogbuefi Ndulue? Ofuedu asked. Ogbuefe Ndulue of the Ire village, Okonkwo and Obiorika said together. He died this morning, said Ofuedu. That is not strange. He was the oldest man in Ire, said Obiorika. You are right, Ofuedu agreed. But you ought to ask why the drum has not beaten to tell Umuofia of his death. Why? Asked Obiorika and Okonkwo together. That is the strange part of it. You know his first wife who walks with a stick? Yes, she is called Ozoemena. That is so, said Ofuedu. Ozoemena was, as you know, too old to attend the Ndule during his illness. His younger wives did that. When he died this morning, one of the women went to Ozoemena's hut and told her. She rose from her mat, took her stick, and walked over to the Obi. She knelt on her knees and hands at the threshold and called her husband, who was laid on the mat. Ogbuefe Nduule, she called 3 times and went back to her hut. When the youngest wife went to call her again to be present at the washing of the body, she found her lying on the mat, dead. That is very strange indeed, said Okonkwo. They will put off Nduule's funeral until the wife has been buried. That is why the drum has not beaten to tell Umuofia. It is always said that Nduule and Ozomena had one mind, said Obiorika. I remember when I was a young boy, there was a song about them. He could not do anything without telling her. I did not know that, said Okonkwo. I thought he was a strong man in his youth. He was indeed, said Ofuedu. Okonkwo shook his head doubtfully. He led Umuofia to war in those days, said Obiorika.